All right, so we'll get started here with a little bit of housekeeping. As we go through today, feel free to ask questions. Do that using the Q&A box in the Zoom interface. That's the one I can see as we go through this. Chats I can't really see, so don't send them in via chat, don't raise your hand, send them in via Q&A. So today's webinar is talking about Nebula and how it can help with social distancing when it comes to deploying networks and troubleshooting networks and things like that. Oops, hold on, I need to start the Facebook going. And it's not working. We're gonna try this one more time. Sorry guys, give me a second here while we try to get Facebook up. Okay guys, give me just another minute. We're trying to get this going. For some reason, that grayed out the start button, so I'm having to redo this all from scratch. I apologize for the delay here. We're almost there. Almost. Okay, should be going there. Now we can continue. Okay, so today we're talking about Nebula and how it can help you with social distancing through remote provisioning, remote troubleshooting, remote access. So one of the first things to come up here is just the fact that it doesn't look like the COVID situation is going away. You know, these headlines here are a little bit old, but it's continuing to be something that's going to be around for a while here. They're saying even if we do get a vaccine towards the end of the year, it's still going to be well into next year, 2021, before that can be widely distributed. And you see a lot of these rules go away. We've seen a number of states where COVID situation's gone down, things that people have opened up, and then they've had to start locking things down again. Even if I'm wrong, even if this does go away in the fall, I think it's going to be a while here where you're still going to have to be dealing with customers who are concerned with strangers, i.e. your installers going on site, or vice versa, your employees not wanting to go on site to a customer premise where they don't know how things are being handled there. So today we're going to talk about how Nebula can help with that. So we'll start by talking a little bit about what Nebula is. So Nebula is our cloud managed networking solution for our networking equipment. It works with our business access points, our switches, and with some of our firewall security gateways. It provides zero-touch provisioning, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Essentially, there's nothing you need to do other than plug in the hardware. All of your devices, all of your customers, all of their networks are all visible through a single web interface. Just go to nebula.zyxel.com, log in, and everything is there. And Nebula is free. There is no mandatory subscription required to be able to use Nebula. The free version of Nebula has no limits to the number of devices, the number of sites, number of customers that you can manage. So when it comes to our equipment here on the security side of things, the NSG series can be managed with Nebula. On switches or NSW, our GS1920V2, GS1350s, GS2220s, and some XS1930s can all be managed through Nebula. And then our wireless access points, pretty much all of our access points with a couple of exceptions, can be managed through Nebula. If you are using Nebula, you don't have to use Nebula for all of your equipment. You can mix and match with non-Nebula equipment. You just can't use Nebula to manage those non-Nebula pieces of equipment, whether it's some of our older hardware, different firewall gateway, or another vendor's product. So one of the questions we get a lot is how does this affect things like PCI, HIPAA, things like that? So the short version of it is that it doesn't affect any of those things. So the equipment itself reaches out to the cloud, and that's where management, that's where configurations come from, logging is done, but none of the customer information is going into our network, right? So anything that's supposed to be in the LAN stays on the LAN. Anything that's supposed to go out to the internet goes directly out to the internet. Nothing is going into our management platform except for what needs to be there for management. So setting up Nebula is pretty simple and straightforward. So we have a QR code on the outside of the box and also a QR code on the belly label of the device. And all you need to do is use a mobile app to scan those and assign that device to a customer and a site under that customer. That's all you need to do. So you can have the equipment shipped to your location. You can scan in those QR codes on the outside of the box, so you don't even have to handle the actual physical product itself, and then you can ship it on to the customer's location. At the customer location, once it's plugged in, it will reach out to the cloud, see who it's been assigned to, and automatically download the configuration. So setup is all done through nebula.zyxel.com, and you can start setting up your customers, their networks, before you even receive the hardware itself. So you can simply log in, create a new customer, create some new sites, and start configuring most of the settings before you would even assign any hardware to that customer. And setting up Nebula is designed to make things go pretty quickly. We can go from having no Nebula account to setting up a Nebula account, activating and assigning an access point, and configuring it to provide guest network services. Separate from the main business SSID, you can do all of that in under 5 minutes generally. Basically, once hardware is plugged in, it automatically downloads its config, it automatically updates its firmware. That's all you need to do. So the good news is going on site, your hardware engineers don't have to spend a lot of time configuring the devices at the customer location. In some cases, you may be able to send the equipment to your customer and have them plug it in, especially in situations where maybe you're replacing defective hardware or upgrading hardware from one generation to another. So for Nebula to work, it automatically reaches out to the cloud. There is nothing that needs to be done on your side of things in most cases. So no setting up port forwarding for remote access, no setting up VPNs for remote access, no cloud keys, no wireless LAN controllers, no software that needs to be installed and run on a server at the location, nothing that needs to be done there for either the customer's location or your own data center. So once it's plugged in and connected, you can access it anywhere you've got a mobile app or you've got a web browser. The bulk of the configuration needs to be done through a web browser, but we do also have the mobile app. So some of the things that Nebula does for you here is it makes setting up VPNs really easy, doing site-to-site VPNs. You simply go into Nebula, select the sites in Nebula you want to link together, choose the topology, and it will automatically connect those sites and do that for you. For remote users, we've just recently rolled out the ability to do L2TP configuration via an email script. This works with iOS devices, Macintosh OS 10 devices, and Windows devices. It does not currently work with Android devices, but with this, set up remote access, it simply emails a script to the user that they need to run, and that script will automatically configure the L2TP VPN to connect back into the office. So all updates are done over the air, so you're not directly configuring any of the devices. You go into the cloud, make your settings, and we will go ahead and push those settings out and automatically apply them for you. We have some smart algorithms in there to make sure we're applying the updates in the proper order so none of your devices go offline. So for instance, I'm sure everyone's at one point is, when changing VLANs has screwed that up and suddenly lost the ability to access a device because you changed the VLANs in the wrong order. We make sure that doesn't happen. We also push out firmware updates remotely, so there's no need to go on site to update firmware. We'll do that for you, and we let you schedule that. So you can schedule it by type of device or individual device. So you can have your different customers update at different times, different devices on the customer's network update at different times based on what the customer's needs are and their usage situation is. So this is a list of our certifications and compliances. So you can see there we have HIPAA on there, we have PCI, and we have a number of other things on there for various different countries out in the world. So even if your customer is not only doing business in the US, they're in Canada, they're in Europe, they're in Australia, whatever it happens to be, chances are we fully comply with all privacy and security regulations that are needed. So Nebula makes it easy to keep an eye on your customers' networks. All of your customers are available through nebula.zyxel.com. You simply log in and they are there. So again, this is free. The core version of Nebula with access to most features is absolutely free for the life of the product. So we'll show here this screenshot you see there is what happens when you log in. It's a list here of all of your different customers. And then a quick update here. Are they using the free version of Nebula, the paid version of Nebula? And we will talk a little bit more about the subscriptions later that are available. How many sites are there? How many devices are online versus offline? Simply dig in and choose the customer you want to manage. And you'll get a breakdown with a similar view here showing all the sites. So if your customer has multiple sites, you'll see all the sites here. And again, a quick brief thing showing you the status of those sites, how many devices are online versus offline, et cetera, and the ability to use Google Maps to map out where those customers are located just for visual representation. And then once you choose the site, you get taken to our dashboard here where everything is done. These are customizable widgets here of different types of information you can see, such as PoE utilization versus budget, number of wireless users online, loading of stuff, things like that. We also make it really easy here to switch between different customers, different sites using pull down menus. So just because you're at one customer, you don't have to back all the way out. Just use the pull down menu to switch to a different site or a different customer. If you're using our NSG gateway, we'll give you some traffic information showing you not just which users are using up most of the traffic on your network, but which specific applications are being used. So this is showing you here, go into the AP view mode here. We can give you a list of clients that are currently connected. And again, these columns here are user choosable, so you can choose what you see there. You can see the IP address of the user. You can see what band they're on, their signal strength, which AP they're connected to, et cetera, both those that are online and offline. We have some visualization of bandwidth utilization over time that you can see. So this is showing you here on the wired network what's been going on, another little snapshot view making it easy to see what's there. We also have this here, this Google Maps integration, so you can drag and drop individual pieces of equipment into the Google Maps view so you can get a visual representation of where the different equipment has been installed. For switch port configuration, you see there all of your ports are available there. We've got a quick visual view as to what speed they're connected at, whether it's 100 or gig, whether they're providing PoE or not, and the ability to quickly go through there, select multiple ports and configure multiple ports simultaneously. And then again, we've got various troubleshooting tools here, ping, MAC table, locator LED. So this is an LED that'll turn on the device itself. So if you have to send someone on site to do some maintenance, you can turn that on and see which specific switch it is that you're currently looking at, and some various graphs showing usage over time. So just showing here the port control, you select multiple ports, and you're able to configure all of these different options simultaneously across multiple ports on multiple switches. So all that stuff I've been showing you, that's all included as part of the free version of Nebula. We also have something here called Professional Pack. So this is our optional paid version of Nebula. So we'll talk a little bit here about some of the features that it unlocks for you. So one of those features it unlocks here is our Wi-Fi health report. This only works on our newer Wi-Fi 6 APs and our Wave 211 AC APs. But it uses artificial intelligence to monitor your wireless network, gives you some visual representation of any users that are having issues on the network, and also provides suggestions. And on some of the APs, we have the ability to do automatic optimization. So you don't have to do anything yourself. It'll automatically make some changes to your network parameters based on what we are seeing here. Another thing it does here is it gives you access to auditing. So the free version of Nebula gives you a week's worth of logs. The paid version of Nebula here, ProPack, gives you a year's worth of logs stored in the cloud. It also gives you an audit log. So every time one of your staff makes a configuration change, we will log that. So you can always go back and see when configurations were changed and who made those changes. So it can help a lot with troubleshooting. Oh wait, that was changed 3 months ago, so we know that's probably not causing this problem that just started last week, where we can see who made that change, so you can talk to them and find out why they changed what they did to see what's going on. It gives you a visualization of your network where it automatically plots out the different network devices and shows you which is connected to what, again, to help with troubleshooting things. And it gives you the ability to generate custom reports that you can either send to yourselves to help you keep an eye on it and provide proactive management of your customers' networks, or you can send to your customers with your logo added into them so they can see what's been going on the network. Um, Really great on the security side of things. Oh, here we go. Here's the slide showing you the network topology view where we automatically generate, showing you what's plugged into what. If you're doing IPTV, which most of you probably are not, it unlocks extra IGMP settings in the switches with the Pro Pack. It also generates a report with IPTV, letting you know who's watching what channels, how often they're watching them. And then we'll use AI or machine learning to also notice any sort of problems we're seeing with those IPTV channels and give you suggestions of what settings should be changed to solve some of those issues. You know, things like slow channel changes, frames being dropped, etc. So here's an example here of the report showing you what's going on, how many channels you've got, showing you what's been watched. Here's the little alert letting you know, hey, we saw a problem. Here's what we think you need to do to fix it, etc. ProPack also unlocks the ability to use templates. So you can use a template and push out changes to multiple sites simultaneously. It allows you to clone existing sites. So oftentimes when setting up a network, right, 90% of the settings are the same from one site to the next. This way you can clone it and just need to change the things that are different for that particular site. And it gives you the ability to create backup and restore points on your network so you can easily roll back if you screw something up down the road. So that was it for ProPack. That was the quick summary there. Security Pack is a separate solution here. This is for our NSG gateways. So this is essentially the subscription you need to provide UTM services. So all of our NSGs include 1 year of the Nebula Security Pack here out of the box. So you don't need to buy this until you finish your first year of usage. But it gives you a number of different reports showing you what's going on your network. It opens up what we call application awareness. Whoops, I didn't that display. I don't know why it's not displaying. Sorry about that. But it allows you to create firewall rules based on individual applications and features of applications that use the web, rather than having to manually figure out, you know, MAC addresses, port ranges, protocols, things like that. This is showing here our content filtering report, giving you a breakdown of which sites were filtered, and you can dig in and see which users were trying to access the different sites, etc. Reports here showing you your antivirus usage, which attacks have been blocked, etc. So this is a really good tool to use, you know, for your customers to help resell your UTM services. You can provide your customer a report, again, with your logo included. So you can say, look, here's what the antivirus, here's what it protected you from over the last year. This is why you need to renew these services. So here's a quick summary of what we've got. We've got the free version of Nebula. It includes that auto provisioning where you just scan the QR code on the outside of the box, and then once you get the hardware, you plug it in. Again, unlimited number of customers you can manage, unlimited number of devices you can manage, gets you access to all of the core functionality of your products. Then we have the professional pack, which is aimed more at MSPs, those providing more managed services or proactive troubleshooting, unlocks an extra logging, unlocks a number of different reports that you can send, and as well as some extra little features here and there. This is available as either an annual license or a lifetime license. So you can buy it a year at a time, or you can buy it as a perpetual seat license. So when you go to lifetime, you just say, I want X number of APs, X number of switches, and that's what you get. It's not tied to any individual piece of hardware, so there's no additional license that needs to be purchased or exchanged if you need to swap out hardware or if you decide to upgrade things on your network, such as replace an 8-port switch with a 24-port switch. It just carries over as part of the seat license. For the annual license on ProPack, when that expires, you simply fall back to the free version, so you don't get locked out of any of your equipment like some of the other cloud services out there. And then we've got the security pack, which essentially is your UTM services on our gateway. So it's app patrol, intrusion detection and prevention, antivirus, content filtering, as well as a number of different reports on those different features and how they take place there. So here's a list of the different hardware we have that currently works in Nebula. So this is our NSG series gateways. So these are designed to be sort of easy to use. So they lack some of the functionality that you might find in the USG or ATP. So that is one thing to keep in mind. You don't have to use the NSG gateway. You can still use an ATP or USG and just manage it directly, not with Nebula. Next year, at some point in 2021, the USG Flex and the ATP will be Nebula manageable, but for this year, they are not. And the main difference between these models is just the horsepower and number of ports they have. All the features otherwise are the same. So here's a breakdown here of our different switches. The NSW switches can only be used with Nebula. And then all the rest of the switches here, the GS1920 V2s, the XGS1930s, the XS1930s, XS3800, GS2220s, GS1350s, these all use what we call Nebula Flex Pro. So these can be used standalone as your traditional switch, managed directly, managed with SNMP, or can be used in the cloud and you can switch those modes. These ones down here labeled Nebula Flex Pro, these include 1 year of Nebula Pro Pack out of the box. So you can standardize on a couple sets of switches and use those for both your customers that you need to cloud manage and those customers you prefer not to cloud manage. And then here's the breakdown of our access points. So it's a little bit more confusing. We can always reach out to your salesperson, Jacob or David Chen starting next week. And they can get you a copy of this or some other reference materials we've put together, printouts. But the short version is basically all of our APs can be managed with Nebula these days. The NAP series can only be managed with Nebula, and then basically everything else has the flexibility of either being managed in Nebula or being managed directly, or depending on the model, also managed with a controller, either our standalone NXC controllers or the wireless LAN controller built into our USG series of products. So if you're interested in this and you haven't played with this before, you can always go to nebula.zyxel.com. Log in there. We've got credentials when you go to log in that are displayed on the screen, and that'll take you to a live multi-site demo. So you can play around with the interface and see how it works. But otherwise, reach out to your salesperson. As long as you are one of our reseller partners that have joined and qualified for our partner program, we can hook you up with a 60-day demo kit where we could send you hardware on site for you to play with there in your own lab. And that, guys, completes today's quick little presentation of Nebula and all the functionality here that it gives you that keeps you from needing to go on site. Whether it's the initial installation or troubleshooting, the idea here is the ability to easily remote provision your devices, the plug and play nature of them, the easy remote access reduces the need to go on site or how much time you need to spend on site when you do go there. If you have any questions, go ahead and send them in with the Q&A box. Otherwise, guys, I thank you for joining us. My email is here on the screen. It is seanr@zyxel.com. Feel free to provide me feedback on today's presentation. Let me know, information that I spent too much time talking about, anything that you thought I should have covered that I didn't, as well as any suggestions you guys have for other webinars that either myself, Tri, or Marcus can put on for you. We put these webinars together to give you some value. So let us know what you see as being valuable, where you feel we're letting you down, things that maybe confuse you and you think a good webinar out there explaining how to do them would make your life easier and bring value to both you and other of ours that are out there. So David is asking, how can I remove an organization from Nebula without deleting the organization? So the organization is basically your customer. It's how you manage them with Nebula. So I'm not sure I entirely understand the question. Now, if you've got a bunch of devices that are Nebula Flex and you no longer want to manage those with Nebula, you can switch them back to standalone mode just by going into that organization and removing the devices. The devices will automatically, within a few minutes, reboot back into standalone mode. If you're looking to use the same organization, maybe you've got the Nebula lifetime license, the seat license, and you want to use it for a new customer, again, you would simply remove the devices, change the name of the organization, and then add add um, add the new devices for the new customer in there, so you could reuse the organization for that. Um, Otherwise, I'm not understanding why you're asking about you want to remove an organization but not delete it. Now, if you've, for instance, your customer, you're no longer going to take care of them, somebody else has bought out your business, or you're selling it to another nearby MSP to take over the account, we do have the ability to transfer an existing organization, transfer who the owner of that organization is. So that's something that we can do. You do need to reach out to our tech support team. We have some paperwork we need you to fill out. Just confirming that you are the current owner of the organization and you would like us to transfer it over to somebody else to take over and remove you. So I hope that answers the question. You know, David, you can always give me a call or email me if I'm not understanding what you're asking there. Nuritan was saying he's having problems with our access point. So, you know, and can we create new firmware? I don't know. What's the issue? Today's webinar probably isn't the best way to handle that, though. Just reach out and call our tech support team. They're based out of our Anaheim office, so they can help you troubleshoot whatever that issue is, confirm what that issue is, and send it off to R&D if needed for a firmware fix. But reaching out to tech support is probably the best way. Best way to reach them is by phone. Just calling our main number, 800-255-4101. And then choosing, I think it's option 5 to go to tech support. That's the best way. We do have the ability to email tech support, and if people are available, online chat. But it sounds like what you're describing there is probably something that really needs someone to get on the phone and maybe do some remote troubleshooting with you. Okay, guys, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. Okay, so I'll ask John. John just got his question in here under the wire. So I got interrupted during the presentation. I saw that Nebula supports new switches and APs. Does it support any routers or USGs? So no, for Nebula right now, on the gateway side of things, it only works with the NSGs. Now, you don't have to use an NSG. You can use a USG series or another brand of router. You just won't be able to manage them in Nebula, but you can still manage them however you would normally remotely manage those. The plan is for next year, the USG Flex will have the ability to be used with Nebula, and I believe the ATP series later in next year will also gain that ability. So USG Flex in the first part of 2021, and then the ATPs later on is, I believe, the current schedule. You know, with software development like this, you know, things can always shift, but that is, I believe, the current plan. So until then, if you want to use Nebula to management, you do have to use the NSG gateways. So I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. My email is up there on screen. So if you've got another question or comment, just go ahead and highlight that and copy it into an email and just email it to me. Again, it's for those of you that can't see the screen, it is Sean R, SHAWNR @Zyxel.com. Just go ahead and send it to me. And if I don't get back to you within 24 hours, send it again. We've got multiple layers of spam filtering here, and every now and then, you know, something gets blocked that shouldn't, and I don't see it for whatever reason. You know, I'm going through a list of 75 different emails. 99% of them are bad, and sometimes I miss the good one. But in general, I'll try to get back to you within 24 hours, and if I don't, just send it again. Thanks, guys.